श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः Om. So we were discussing on Ajatavada, non-creation or uncreation. It's the uncreation theory of Vedanta. This is considered to be the highest theory, as we know. We will take little revising what we discussed. Then I will take up your question for answering. So the uncreation, when we say, the word itself is like penetrating. So where there is no creation, no birth. So how can we like that? There is no birth, no creation, how we experience all this? So the Vedanta brings here the cause and effect theory. We had discussed it. Once the cause is known completely, then the effect is nothing but cause. So the theory says, if the cause is known, the effect is identical with the cause. The effect has identical co-presence, we can say that, with the cause. Now, when we discuss this theory, we separate the cause and effect. This is the reason we have sometimes the doubt how this effect is not existing. How is this effect is uncreated? Why? Because when we talk about cause and effect, we bring both together. And mind try to separate them in order to understand it. It's a natural process, a psychological fact. There the doubt arises. How it is compared, or how it is compatible, how it is separate, and why we bring all these theories to understand if it is nothing is created. I think therefore we have to go little bit more deeper into this level of understanding, this cause and effect theory. The last session we have discussed this point. The uncreation is the reality in that point of view of when we see as cause. When we see as cause, the effect is uncreated. But when we see from effect point of view, the effect has some modification, some creational changes. And unfortunately, our perception or the sensual perception struck the effects modification, and mind get the picture of that, the cognition of that. And once something is known to the mind, mind again take it as a real. So this process is disturbing our theory of this uncreation, or it is for us now sometimes it is unbelievable. So now we have to separate these 2 points of view in order to establish the differences in the mind. And then we will understand only the cause exists, the effect is attributed. Now, the question connecting to this you have asked here is, we have 2 different perceptions. One is objective perception, the another is subjective perception. I will give little explanation in regard to this in order to say more on that. The next section we will discuss more on that, but to take up this question. Now, when we say objective perception, what is that? What is the object? Where is the object? And how the object is perceived? It means it is known. How the cognition comes to your mind. We know the objects are outside, like we consider that objects are outside. So we have an object as book in front of us. We look at it and then we know that we have perceived the book. We know this is book. Then we say, this is book. We never say, I am book, or my mind is book, or my cognition is book, or my eyesight is connected to book. We don't use any of these terms to orally say what has happened. We say this is book. Now, who is saying this? Book is not saying that this is book. We are saying, the consciousness say this is book. Now you see, if the consciousness says this is book, now where is that consciousness? This consciousness is on that book or on your mind, where it is reflected. Your objectification is outside, you have objective cognition, and you say this is book, but what has happened there? What is the procedure there? The procedure is, you are with that. Your mind is book now. Your consciousness is book. But it is reflected as outside. So this is what Vedanta says. Although you see and experience the objects outside, no experience can be proved as happening outside. Nobody can prove it. So now your consciousness is everything. So starting from seeing the book and going through your mind and the objectification and identification and the experience what you have, enjoyment and sorrow, everything is connected there. The all process, all phenomenon is in your mind. So this is the objectification now. Now you see, what we had discussed in previous session is, for Vedanta, the ultimate cause is Sat Chit Ananda. I have used these words and explained it. For Vedanta, consciousness, existence is everything. Now even this objective perception have a background, it is oriented, it is created in that existence consciousness level. If that is the case, what would we feel what should we feel when we see something outside? We should feel that it is happening inside. That is the right way, no? Because when we say I am, when we see our consciousness, so we see it is inward and the object is outward. But really speaking, in this level of understanding, it cannot be outside. Now, what you feel as outside objective cognition cannot be right, no? How can you say it is a right cognition? Why? Because you basically feel that it is outside. Actually, it is happening inside. Now you take the point. If it is happening inside any of the elements inside that mind, intellect, ego or consciousness, whatever we say, we take it everything as inside elements, inside internal elements. Let it be any of this. But we should say again, it is subjective. Why? Because the terms used in English, like object and subject, not only in English, it is a language trick, we can say. We separate to know all these things. Now, if the objectification, what I mean is to say that making anything outside and thinking that is object is totally, in this view of understanding, is totally erroneous understanding. It is mistake. Now, after we see something in our mind, we see the object is outside, it is a miracle of mind. This mind is making this miracle. Here we say, how mind is able to make this miracle? Is it really mind is making outside objects? Mind is creating the object outside and seeing it, perceiving it? Or mind itself is turned in the form of object and perceiving it? You see, it is very interesting. Now, mind has the capacity to project the object, although it is in the mind, but as outside. So the outside entity, outside object is a projection of the mind only. This is again a special theory of understanding, a special theory of creation here discussed in Mandukya Karika. When we say mind creates everything, it is wrong actually. This is the difficulty people face to understand. When we say mind creates, normally we say, mind creates, this is a creation of mind, outside world, outside experiences, all these things we talk about. Actually, if we rightly put this concept, we should say mind appears itself. Because mind cannot create anything. So therefore, the mind's creation, it said in Mandukya Karika, Manodrishyamidam dvaidam. This all creation is Manodrishya. Manaso hi amani bhave dvaidam naivo balabhyate. When mind become non-mind, you will not see any creation outside, any objects outside. When we listen to this idea, we just say it is nonsense. This is what nonsense is speaking about. How can mind create, and how we feel that mind created everything outside, and mind is inside. You see, people know that mind is inside. So mind cannot create outside objects. But we are failing to understand the mind is the factor who understands and takes and perceives and give you the effect. If mind is off, what perception you have, what experience you have? So this appearance, mind is appearing as outside object. Mind is appearing as a perceiver. Mind is appearing as a perception and experience. That is what very simply Gaudapada Acharya, the author of Mandukya Karika, puts these words like Manodrishyamidam dvaidam. Now see again, here is a theory, you know that. There is a theory of holographic psychology. You know this, no? It is simply what Gaudapada Acharya said regarding this mind's creation and all this. If you read the holographic theory of psychology, you will understand everything. It's very simple, because those days this holography and psychology, this kind of words were not there, because it is in modern languages. Because the idea is conveyed very clear. It says, holographic theory of psychology says, nothing is outside. Mind projects its outside as you experience outside. Sometimes mind projects as outside objects, sometimes are inside objects. Some factors are different in the process of knowing it. So, I wanted to introduce a book here regarding this. I have read it many years before. Holography and Indian Idealism. You can get this book, especially talking about this, compared to Mandukya Karika. He is talking about Mandukya Karika. Holography and Indian Idealism. The author his name is Stephen Kaplan, Kaplan, and it is published in Motilal Banarasi Das, the Delhi-based Indian publishers. So they have published it, and it is a good study because he brings the science and very simply is connecting with this theory. And what he said, even those days, maybe 2000 years before, they have experienced this. They had this theory of mind creation. So you see how wonder it is. Therefore, unless we don't get into this point deeply and try to experience or even try to study the textbooks correctly, we will not get any idea of this. We will be confused. Therefore, properly studying of this is also needed. Because if you want to study any of the philosophies or any of the theories, any of the science, you need to know the proper way of doing it. So now, what we were talking about, the objective perception. Now, where is the objective perception? The objective perception is also based on the consciousness. You can say the mind, intellect, ego, complexity. This is what the perception is. Now we take the subjective perception, what we call as subjective perception, that you have asked this. Now subjective perception is the object which is there in the mind is identified or related with the I-ness, which we consider as self, ourselves. So when I say, I have seen the book and this is my book, I have brought this mobile phone and this is my mobile phone. So now you see the two differences. First we say, I have brought this mobile phone. So the particular mobile phone which you have purchased. Now that mobile phone become my mobile phone. So you identify that mobile phone with your mind and you give the consciousness, yani you transmit your consciousness into that mobile phone and you connect it. But nothing is happening there. Because you can't transmit consciousness. You can transmit yourself. You can expand yourself. So now what is happening there? Nothing. So you create this idea of connection. This is a superimposition. You are superimposing yourself with the object which was totally different for that time. Before that time, you brought it. So when it is connected to you, you feel that I am with that. So I am that. So even then, there is a feeling that if something happened to that mobile, you are felt with that. It means that although the mobile, I brought it, it is not me. I connected it with me with giving the money when I purchased, and money was connected again. It is another story. And now you feel whatever happened to that mobile, it is happening to me. This is my my thing. So it is in my mind. You see the trick of the mind. Now when you said that, when you felt that this is my mobile phone, this mobile phone is completely accepted by mind, and mind takes it with it, and whatever happens, changes happens, you feel that it is happening to me, happening to the mind. Because happening to mind, how we can say? Because if mobile has some problem, the problem is there in your mind, and you are suffering with that, you are disturbed with that, you try to remove that problem. So real problem is where the problem is. Physically we can say the problem is in the mobile phone. But emotionally and in experiential level we can say the problem is in the mind, inside. So this kind of perception, this kind of cognition, we call it subjective cognition. It can be related to family, friends, to the nation, and all world, all cosmic, because you connect one after another and it's gone for the all creation is connected in such a way. So now we know both the differences. Even the objective cognition and the subjective cognition, both are there in the mind, both are based on mind, and mind is reflecting or projecting it as outside object sometimes, and the connection in between that. So therefore, this theory of perception, the theory of perception in Mandukya Karika, I particularly says that nothing is created, nothing is experienced other than you. Now what is wrong with that? Nothing, no difference that you can find there. So now what is the problem is, we have no correct understanding, correct feeling of ourselves. We have not tried to know the functions of the mind. We have no idea how the ego is connected to mind and consciousness, how it is function, and how it is connected to the outside objects. This thing you cannot study from psychology. Nobody should think that if you want to know this, we can study psychology, the neo-psychology, modern psychology, and understand all these points. No. Because psychology itself is confused in this realm of understanding. So here, last section what we talked about, if you know the ultimate cause, the primary cause, then you know the all creation. Right? This is what we discussed last part. You bring that same theory here. Now you know the consciousness as the ultimate, the substratum of all the functions of mind. Then you have known the mind. Then you have no objects other than the mind. The mind is empowered by consciousness. Mind is a reflective consciousness, what we say as technically. If mind is reflective consciousness, mind can project the objects as outside, according to holographic theory of psychology and from our Mandukya-Karika theory of perception, then what is really projected and what is happening? Everything is based on consciousness only, because consciousness is reflected in mind. Mind is empowered by consciousness, and that mind, which has all the imprints of the objects, is reflecting the objects outside. To reflect that, to take the light of object, it uses the sense organs. You know, actually sense organs was what they do? According to this theory, they only brings light inside. That's all. Like the projector, no? Nowadays we have a projector, computer projector, and so what is there in the projector? Only light. So the light is, the reflection of light goes through the retina of the eye, and it goes to the visual cortex of the brain, and then the object is created there. So what goes inside? Nothing. Only light goes inside. You see. Now how can you say light as book? Can we say the light is equal to book or book is equal to light? No. Cannot say that. But the reality is, the particular light reflected on the book, that is the form of the book, and that light is reflected in the eyesight, and then the perceiving is you say, I know, I have seen the book. So this is the all process. Now we will come to the last part of the question, where the question is, can we say that the objective perception will remain, but the subjective perception will go away? Because we said that the objective perception is a physical process, a biological process. And subjective perception, what we call as experience, is the reality. It means the physical process will continue physically according to the manifestation theory of that particular object. And then you will perceive in between the process. So that is called the theory of perceiving. To elaborate it more, you can take the same analogy what we have discussed. Now I think I see the book outside. I am perceiving the book. The light is reflected on the book. I am right in front of that book in a certain distance. The reflected light is reflected in my eyesight. So this process, the reflection process, is always there. This is the physiology of that. Because light is there outside, object is here as a book, eyesight is there as the lens and everything of the different parts of the eyesight. All are there in a particular way of what the connection, the particular the kind of connection we can say is connected. Now this connection has nothing to do with your perception, because before perceiving the connection is there, after perceiving, the connection continues. Why? Because the connection is just a physical process. It is there. If the object is in front of you, it is there. But sometimes, even though this connection is completed, you don't perceive it. It means, after this all process, the mind should be applied there. If mind gets the chance to be present in coordination with this connection, then the perception happens. The mind should be co-present in this condition. Otherwise, no. And the presence of mind is also, we can say, the part of this process only. Why? Because mind is always shifting and changing. It can sometimes hear the sound, sometimes touch, sometimes see, it is coming. And this outside connection of light and sight and the object is already established there. So when mind appears, it perceives with the preconditioned ideas. Otherwise also the connection is there. It means the accumulation of that is established there. But mind is thinking something else. Therefore we say, when we know the truth, the reality, where the change takes place? In the mind. Because whatever you gain by knowledge, you have some effect in the mind only, as a thought. The knowledge cannot change anything outside. Knowledge cannot activate anything outside. So knowledge is not creating anything outside, or knowledge is not disturbing anything outside or destroying anything outside. Therefore, the change is only in the mind. Mind, intellect, all together. The compound of mind, intellect and the ego and all connected together. Now that is completed, and you want the change in the mind only, not outside. Because outside object is not disturbing you. What is there in the mind is disturbing you. Or the experience what you say, that is whatever in the mind. Therefore, there is no need to change the outside perception, outside objective process. That is related to object. But to understand how the thought is produced, we take the object, that's all. We take the existing connection of all these things. You see, very simple it is. Therefore, after the knowledge, after the experience of knowledge, no object is changed. And the perception, as we say, in relation with the outside object continues the same. But the perceptive knowledge, the cognition inside changes. Now I think you got the point. The cognition changes, but the perception, that process of perception is not changed. This is what it says. Therefore, we can surely say the objective perception will remain as previous, but the cognitive experience will change after gaining knowledge. It is not only spiritual knowledge of Brahman, knowledge of consciousness, but it is also in the case of all kinds of knowledge. Even in the science, even in all other. We know that when we were in the schools, our cognition perception was different. And it went on. It took a long time and it changed. And today, even today, it is changing. So it is possible. And only we can say this is only the possibility. The perceptive sense of change cannot happen. If you close the eyes, now you have disconnected the combination of seeing. So you have disconnected the perception there. So you are not disconnecting it, then it is there. So this way, where you apply the mind, there you experience. How you apply the mind, that would be your experience. Not because of the objects. Nobody should blame on objects outside. If you blame the experiences on object, that is foolish. That is how we suffer. We always put all our problems on objects outside. You can change your mind and understand this. So the cause and effect theory also applied here, as I discussed in the starting, because again the mind is based on consciousness. So this way this reflection comes. It is very easy to understand this way. Now, yeah. Yeah?
See, so what you explained is, of course, very clear. The objective perception is only happening inside, and it is a function of the mind to using the knowledge it has, and therefore the perception also keeps changing.
Yeah.
What I meant by subjective perception may not be the right term then, but what happens in our normal living is we have a lot of perceptions which are very harmless. Like we can say, this is a table, this is a book, so on. But we also have certain perceptions like, I'm a very intelligent man, or I'm a very good person. And from a very practical standpoint, what happens is, those perceptions, when they are offended, we get affected emotionally.
Correct.
If someone says, no, this is not a table, you may laugh at him and go away, but you are not offended. If someone says, no, you are not very intelligent, you are stupid, that really normally creates an emotional reaction in people, because they have identified themselves with their body and their intellect. And so that kind of a perception, which is not object, but it's more abstract. Those perceptions seem to be the main cause of suffering, other than the physical suffering.
Yeah.
There is, of course, jara, vyadi, vritti. Outside of jara, vyadi and vritti, these perceptions cause a lot of psychological suffering. So the question was, that when the true experience of Ajatavada and therefore oneness of consciousness is there, will those perceptions completely go away, because that would be the...
Yeah, correct. What you have put, it is correct. Whatever there in the mind, I am using the word in a general term as mind, it changes. And it changed from the childhood. If we see, our mind was constantly changing. Now what we feel as the totality of all these changes, and we feel we are old, this much old. Physically it is in another sense, but mentally also we have changed. So this change is again happening with the knowledge, that's all. You are taking a complete change. You are going to be with the consciousness, with the what is the life of your existence. That is all. So therefore we say there is no changes. Now we will not deny the outside changes in any other level. Vedanta never denies outside objects in any other theory, because this theory is particularly defining or purifying your thought process, the basic thought process. Because once you understand this, you will totally change. You will change your perception, because there is no reason why you should not change. So this is what it says. Okay. Now the next question is based on the Samasattva and Vishamasatta. It's another interesting point we discussed that day. The Samasatta means the cause and effect have the same reality. They coexist in same reality. This is called Samasatta. The Sama means the same, Satta means reality or existence. And the Vishamasatta, it means the so-called cause or substratum and the effect is not in same reality. They are in different realities. We have discussed of three realities. The first one is Paramartha Satta, the ultimate reality. Then we discussed about Vyavahar Satta, that is empirical reality. We can say the phenomenal world, how we experience. And the third one is illusory reality. It is just illusion. These three realities, when we compare with two each, we make a combination of two. We can say this is Vishamasatta. It means it is different realities put together. It makes no correct perception or experience. It makes wrong perception, experience. So in this regard, the first and foremost reality is ultimate reality, that we have discussed, the ultimate reality according to Vedanta is Brahman. Like in science, the matter or energy or whatever we say. So that is ultimate. And the empirical reality is very natural to us, that we are all living in that reality. So obviously we can say, if we talk about reality, for us the reality is empirical reality, that is phenomenal world. Now, if you connect the cause and effect theory, when cause and effect both are in same reality, we call it samasatta. As the clay and the pot, we have discussed it. And Vishamasatta, we brought the mirage and the reflected water there. Or the snake and rope analogy, both can be used. And snake is like empirical reality. Snake is Vyavahara Satta. Why? Because we can perceive it with sense organs. But that snake is different. Now the rope is also perceivable object. But now at present, when we superimpose the snake on the rope in a special condition, with lack of light and something is when we are walking on the road and we have seen something there lying, it was in the shape of snake, so we see snake there and we are afraid of it. But what the snake you have seen on the rope is not the snake of the other actual reality. This snake is different from that snake. So this is mental creation. Therefore, this has another reality, because whatever there in the mind has not the actual reality as an object. This we all know that. If we think about a sweet dish, we'd never feel it. We have that sweet in our hands. So it means we know that, even though the mind brings that, but you know that this is not the reality what I want. So then these differences, when come together, then connected together, is called Vishamasatta. So, therefore, when we remove this, when we know the rope as rope, the snake vanishes. Your question is, if we say this, the all creation vanishes when the Brahman is known. Can we say this? No. Because even though it is in Vishamasatta, we cannot say the snake has vanished. Can we say that? We can only say the snake which was in my mind In this time, that was not snake. But the snake has not vanished from the creation. And the experience you had just before the knowledge of rope is also has not vanished. The experience says you saw the snake there. You have experienced it. And now the second thought, which we say as a real knowledge, it says, oh, the first one was wrong. It means first one is also existing there. And the second one is also existing there. You are comparing with two and says the first one is wrong and the second one is right. Am I right? What I am saying is, how can you deny if the thought is not there in the mind? What you are denying? So there is no process of vanishing, because in this Vedantic theory, there is no destruction, destroying, removing, emptying. So whatever you feel as one thought to another thought, when we talk about thoughts, and when we talk about the objects outside, as we call it created objects, it changes one form to another form to yet another form. It never vanishes. Therefore, ultimately we can say, when we get the right knowledge, we know the actual cause of the objects outside, the actual existence of ourselves, the function of mind, the connectivity, the previous knowledge and present knowledge, everything we know as it is. Removing all superimposed connections, changing those. If you are not seeing, if you are not remembering the snake which you saw on the rope, you cannot say the snake is not there. You cannot say the rope is the reality. Now you know that the snake I saw was in my mind and the rope is outside. These are two different objects. One is in the mind, in another reality. Another is in another reality. So it has no connection. I mistakenly connected those two. This is the experience you have after this illusory experience. Now you see what is removed, what is destroyed? Nothing. There is no case of destruction or vanishing. It's only you change the perceptions and understand the reality, what is there. Now, this theory you can connect with your mind, you can connect with your intellect, or your spiritual knowledge, Vedantic knowledge, science, wherever you put this, the process is the same. It has no loopholes, it has no drawbacks. If I say, after knowing the reality, whatever you gained, everything will go away. If I say this, it is totally wrong. It is completely a blunder statement. Therefore, the objects outside will remain as it is, and the mind will also be connected when it is needed, but the experience, the cognition will be different. You will also remember, I was thinking these objects as real in those days. Now I think these objects are unreal in connection with my new experience, in connection with my new cognition. This is what the experience of Jnani. Jnani remembers all his previous actions. He preaches on that. He writes books on that. Now what vanished away? So you can see all the Jnani's experiences. They write autobiography on that. Or if at all they are not writing, they will orate their stories. And when they orate their stories, the oration will be very clear and very specific. Perfect. Nothing is missing there. No confusion. What does it mean? Because the process of remembering and forgetting is psychological. It's a mental process which is connected to the physical energy and the physiology of the body. As long as you create energy and the mind is working, the brain is active, you will remember all that. And if you want to disconnect those, there you need to do some other actions, some other means to bring in, and drugs or something you have to be, this is something you have to do. Otherwise, the memory will be still there. Sedation, if you take sedation, you will forget. So this is what the Vedanta says, because Vedanta is completely practical, total practicality. Nothing is missed there. Why we are not missing anything? Because we don't have an object or an idea which is untouchable, which should be avoided. We don't have anything like that. We accept everything. The Vedanta accepts everything, because everything is the form of Brahman. Everything is the form of reality itself. So now, where we are going to change, what we are going to change, is all connected to the individual mind and the thought process. Okay?
Yes. Just, I think I made a connection when I was just talking. Because what we are saying is there are two realities, Vishma Satta. Both of them exist. Even after the perception of the ultimate reality, the empirical reality still exists.
Correct.
And operates.
Correct.
It reminded me of Ramana Maharishi would always say that it's like when a child is sleeping and the mother wakes him up, feeds him food. He eats the food perfectly, but he has no memory that he is eating the food. So he said similarly, Jnani always remains in the state of ultimate reality. But others perceive him just as the mother perceives the child eating food. Whereas the child himself has no identification with eating. Similarly, he said, Jnani will perfectly deal with the empirical reality.
Correct.
He is always established in the ultimate reality. He does not see the empirical reality the way others see it.
It means the Jnani, whoever knows this, knows both the ends. The ultimate reality as his self, and the empirical reality, the so-called outside objects. He has both the ends connected very well. It means he knows, if I say this is the experience of reality, ultimate reality, this is also mind. If I say the outside objects as reality, that is all the mind. And both has the similarity which cannot be changed. The similarity is Sat Chit Ananda. The existence, consciousness, sometimes manifested word and sometimes unmanifested. Because what we say insentient objects, Vedanta says those are unmanifested consciousness. Why? Our ultimate reality is that the same, no? From matter and energy, everything is created. If you go to quantum physics, the quantum is everything. So how can you differentiate the consciousness and the unconsciousness? So the conscious and unconscious is in a comparative realm. With this concept of understanding, manifest, the reflected consciousness, where we see the reflected consciousness, that is called conscious being, living being. And where we don't have the reflected consciousness, we say it is unconscious, non-living beings. So this is the difference, no? Now, why it is not reflected there? Because there should be a element needed for the reflection. That was mind, was the brain. Because mind, in this context, we can take the brain also. So that part is not there in that object, particular object, stone and wood. So that there is no reflection. Here that brain is there. So it is reflected. In the mirror the light is reflected, but not on the normal stone. So similarly, when we take the actual experience of Jnani from his words and his actions, he is seeing both the ends. In other words, we can say, as concluding, he has no differentiation altogether. He is seeing the only existence in all those, inside and outside. Na antaha, na bahi. Therefore, he will not discuss much on the objects compared to his consciousness experience, the mental connections. Why? Because these objects are there in the mind. So this, what you just now you said, the viewpoint of mother, it's there. It is there. So Jnani takes, it is taken for granted. Like you say something about the objects, so Jnani also take your words and your thoughts and then discuss. Like a child, no, 5 or 6-year-old child, ask a question about what is this moon is to a eminent scientist in physics, then what he will be answering? What would be his answer? He will not say, you see, this is all made of gases and this thing of the sunlight is reflected on that and you are seeing it as a moonlight, but there is no moonlight on this actual scientific theory. He will not apply there. That is not the answer to the child. For the child, the answer would be, you see, it's a beautiful, no? It's very nice. You see how beautifully the light is reflected there. The black hole inside, you see. So how beautiful is like a flower. Something he will say. Because the mind of that child is to that level of understanding. It needs that answer. So Jnani also does that. Because he is very practical and highly sensitive to these things. Therefore his answer would be like that. If you take that answer into that answer as real answer to the question asked, then you are wrong. This is what happens normally. So this is you have put all the questions very clearly, I can see, because you have thought on that. So we will continue with this. There are some more points we will discuss after completing this question answer section. I will connect the God concept here. You have already asked one question regarding that. Yeah, Ishvara. And the karma theory. And how this uncreation theory is connecting the karma and the Ishvara, or the sadhanas and bhakti. So these are all practical things we have to discuss. So that we will discuss after completing this. I think some of the point we can discuss with this, and if something is left over, we will discuss separately. Okay? Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah Harihi Om.